Hello all, my name is Prathik and I work for Cisco Tech, and today I will be walking you through in configuring the 4G on your Cisco devices. Here is the overview, and 4G can be 10 times faster than your 3G, and these are the Cisco 4G LTE offerings on your ISR G2 and also on these fixed platforms. So here we have EHWIC 4G. These are all on the ISR G2 platforms and the Cisco 800 series router where we call it as a fixed platform. And these are the various offerings from Cisco based on the region. EHWIC 4G LTE-V stands for Verizon. EHWIC 4G LTE-A is for AT&T, and so on and so forth. Well, here is the topology of 4G that's used as a primary WAN link. Primary WAN connectivity enables high performance, secure, reliable, and transparent multimedia applications, simplifies deployment and management. Here is the topology of 4G used as a backup WAN link. And the main target service is a remote branch office backup, wherein most of the organizations are planning to replace the existing T1, T3, ISDN or 3G services. So let's start with the configuration on the 4G. And in this video here, I will be configuring the 4G card as a primary WAN link. And these are the basic configurations that are needed to bring up the cellular interface. So let's start configuring on the controller. So the controller configurations that you're seeing on screen here are embedded by default on the Cisco iOS images that's 15.3.3M1 or later. These commands here increase the stability and reliability of the LTE connection. Also includes an embedded modem link recovery, which eliminates the need of link recovery scripts. And well, yes, before we proceed further to configure the 4G, ensure that the SIM card is provisioned properly. So this is how you do it. Do a show cellular interface all, and under the network information, ensure that the current service status is normal and the current service is packet switched, which means that it's provisioned. The SIM card is provisioned for data, and if you see the current service as circuit switched, it's provisioned only for voice. And the packet switch domain state should be always attached, and the radio it should be on, and ensure that the received signal strength indicator you have, and ensure you have enough coverage or a decent coverage of the 4G wherever you have located the router. So here in this example, we have an excellent 4G coverage in the area where the router is located, and also the SIM status should be okay. So here is my lab device. So we are using a 2900 router that comes with EHWIC 4G LTE card, and this is where we have used the SIM card. So let's check if the SIM card is provisioned properly. And before we do that, so this will be configured on the cellular 000 interface. So show cellular 000. To get specific information, you can use the specific commands. Instead of show cellular 000 all, I will use the show cellular 000 network. I'll get the network information. So current service status is normal, packet switched, which means that it's provisioned for data, and then the packet switch domain is attached, and so on and so forth. So coming to the coverage, so we will find that information here. So the network coverage that I have on this router is pretty good. It is minus 98 dBm. I have a good reception, and here it is selected 3G due to the coverage where the router is located. So let's proceed further to configure this router. So next in line is the profile configuration. The access point name configuration is stored on the modem NVRAM and not on the router itself. In most cases, you do not have to make this configuration. If the SIM card is provisioned for data, then it comes default. There will be a default APN name by the service provider. However, we do have an option if you want to change any parameters which is supplied by the service provider, example, the username for the access point name and the password. We do have an option to change that under the following circumstances. And in order to change any configuration, here is how you do it. Do a cellular 000 LTE, and that's profile number 1. Create a profile number 1. Here we are using an Airtel SIM card, so that will be airtel.gprs.com. So this will be supplied by the service provider, and any authentication, whether it's CHAP or PAP or none, there is no authentication. So these things are all provided by the service provider, and in case you need to make any changes in future, you will have to use this following command. So next is the chat script. Chat script is the communication between the iOS and the modem, and here is the syntax for chat script. Ensure that you have the right syntax used, and chat script is configured under the configure terminal. So the chat script is configured using the chat script command, and the name I will be giving LTE as the name, and double colon here means that expect data within this double colon. So the data that we are sending will be 80 exclamatory call 1, that's the data that's sent, and timeout. So here what it means is expect data of 80 exclamatory call 1, and the timeout is 30 seconds before we get a response of OK from the other end, which is the service provider. So here is the debug of the chat script, and this is how the chat script works. Here we are pinging an IP address to initiate the dialer or initiate the traffic through the cellular after the entire configuration is done. So debug chat is what the output is. So here we see that the attempting async dialer script and then dialing using modern script LTE, which is the chat script name, and chat script started sending a string. Remember the double colon data within the double colon is sent, which is 80 exclamatory call, and expecting string is OK. And once it receives an OK from the other end, the chat script is finished and the status is successful. This is when it negotiates an IP address from the service provider. So let's move forward to configure the cellular interface. And so configuring the cellular interface, so this is how we do it. Get under the interface cellular configuration. So IP address negotiated, which means that the IP address is negotiated by the service provider. The service provider dynamically assigns an IP address, and the encapsulation used for 4G is SLIP. Dialer in band here indicates that the chat script can be used over this cellular interface, and async mode interactive command allows us to use the encapsulation, be it PPP for 3G or SLIP for 4G. And the dialer string LTE, this LTE ensure that this is the name, this matches the name of the chat script, and this is what triggers the dialer. And the dialer group 1 triggers a dial when traffic matches the dialer list, and number 1 here should match the dialer list configuration, dialer list number. So we have to configure an interesting traffic to bring up the cellular interface, which is done using this command, the dialer list, which is dialer list 1 protocol IP permit, which means all IP traffic is interesting. So any IP traffic going through the cellular interface triggers the dialer, and it initiates a call, and then it tries to negotiate an IP address from the service provider. So next in line is configuring the route. So since this is a primary WAN link connection, we are using a default route pointing to the cellular interface, which is IP route 00000000 cellular 0/0/0. So let's go ahead and configure this on the lab router. So here is the configuration on the lab router here. So get into the configuration mode under the interface cellular 0/0/0 IP address negotiated, which negotiates an IP address from the service provider. Encapsulation is SLIP for 4G, and dialer in band indicates that the chat script can be used over this interface, and then async mode interactive allows to use as the encapsulation, and the dialer string, which is the chat script name, that is LTE, and the dialer group, which is number 1, where we'll be configuring the dialer list to initiate the interesting traffic here. So dialer list will be configured not under the interface, it will be configured under the configuration mode. So dialer list number 1 should match the dialer group number 1 here. So any IP will be the interesting traffic for this router. So going next, we'll have to configure the default route for the cellular, as this is used as a primary WAN link connection. Let's move forward. So this is done under the configuration mode. IP route. So source IP, any source, any destination, all traffic should be sent over the cellular interface. So next is the line configuration, where the iOS communicates with the modem over the TTY line. So here the interface line 000 matches the cellular interface, and exit timeout 00 here closes the session after 0 seconds of inactivity, and ensure that the script dialer name matches the chat script name and also the dialer string, which is used as a LTE here, and the modem in-out, which allows inbound and outbound calls to the modem. Let's configure this on the lab device. So let's configure this now under the line 0/0/0. Exit timeout is 00, closes the session after 0 seconds, and ensure that you're using the right or the correct name, which is LTE. Under the chat script, this is what we've used, and under the dialer, the LTE is the name. So no exit and modem in out. Let's check the basic internet connectivity here. So all route should be sent over the cellular interface, and let's check the status of the cellular interface. So this is what we have configured, and the cellular interface is up, but then we haven't got an IP address, and without an IP address we'll not be able to communicate. So the cellular interface has not acquired an IP address dynamically from the service provider here. So the reason is simple. So there is no traffic passed over the cellular interface, and once the traffic is passed, or once it triggers the dial, only then it will communicate with the ISP and acquire or negotiate an IP address with the service provider. So once the configurations are in place, we should see the profile active. The profile one is active, and then it should have an IP address assigned dynamically by the service provider. Let's quickly go ahead and check on the device. Let's check the status, interface status on this device. Okay, the cellular interface is up. However, it has not got an IP address yet from the service provider. And let's check the profile status. Okay, so the profile one is still inactive. So okay, so all the traffic will be passed over the cellular interface. For the cellular interface to become active, there should be some interesting traffic generated. So I will be generating some interesting traffic to the cellular interface, but before we do that, let's see what happens. I will enable few debugs on this router, and we will see the series of occurrences that happens before it gets an IP address from the service provider. So the debug commands are debug chat, debug modem, debug dialer, and then debug cellular call control. So these are the debugs that I am currently running on this device. One is the modem, the other is for the dialer, or the cellular. Now that we have enabled debugs on this router, let's see the series of occurrences here on this router. So currently the interface is up, but then it has not got an IP address. So until and unless there is some interesting traffic generated, the cellular interface will not come up. So all traffic will be sent across the cellular interface, since we have the default route configured towards the cellular. So here I will be pinging 4.2.2.2 IP address. So that will be sent across the cellular 0/0/0, and here is what the series of occurrences here for the debug logs. let's wait and see what happens next. Okay, there we are seeing that the interfaces is coming up, the cellular interfaces come up here. So if you carefully analyze, this is what has happened. A call has been placed and the dialing cause IP is the source IP of this, and the destination IP address is sent to 4.2. This is the Ethernet IP address, LAN and IP address, and the dial region is LTE. This is the chat script name, the LTE, and then attempting async client dialer script, and here it's sending a string 80 exclamatory call 1. It is expecting an OK, and here we see the cell WAN bearer up, wherein it's negotiating an IP address, and here the cellular 000 profile becomes active, and then the chat script LTE has finished and the status is success. It has got a response from the other end. So now it is success. Now the call is established. The cellular has got an IP address. This is a DNS IP address, primary DNS and the secondary DNS IP address, and the link is come up. So let's see, and here you can see that the install negotiated interface IP address here. This is the IP address that's assigned on the cellular interface. So there you go. We have an IP address on the cellular interface now, and so that's it. That's how you configure the cellular interface. So with this, we've concluded in configuring the cellular on the Cisco devices. I hope this video was informative, and thank you for watching.